Hello, I am Xander or Pigeon or whatever you want to call me. I don't care. Except something rude, I will kill you. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of infighting. Alright, before we get into the yummy, yummy meat and potatoes of my issues with the left, I want to make a few things abundantly clear. This isn't meant to be like a super extreme call-out post. I don't think that necessarily everyone I mentioned in this video is evil, although at least one of them is. I am going to be calling out people specifically, and that's mainly because I'm not a pussy, and I'm not really afraid of any pushback. The other reason is just that I think it makes my points make more sense if they're about case-by-case bases, because I don't think this is a phenomenon that is always done poorly, if that makes sense. So I think that should cover my ass in case anyone wants to point at me and call me a meme. The only thing my left-leaning allies love more than infighting is debating upon the basis of anything. You're not a real ally if you do this. You're a stupid asshole if you don't do this. Did you just eat a McDonald's burger? There was a boycott that ended 3 months ago, you sick freak. Okay, I know I'm being a bit silly here, and it is on purpose. Obviously, I agree with the boycotts. I just think that maybe yelling at your favorite streamer because they ate fast food is not exactly a replacement for activism. Personally, I engage in this also. Not as much as others, I would hope you would agree. But, you might even argue I'm doing so right now by nitpicking my general political allies. But where you're wrong is that a debate bro is never truly my ally. I'm being a bit hyperbolic here, but if I have to see one more leftist or liberal YouTuber, streamer, TikToker, whatever the fuck, just talk to a conservative and then go, I can't believe you said something racist or homophobic while also being conservative. That's insane. I'm gonna rip out all of my hairs one by one until I bleed to death. On the surface, I understand the impulse of wanting to debate anything and anyone that disagrees with you. And I don't think it's always wrong, and if it was just random Twitter reply guys here and then, I wouldn't really be making this video. But as we'll see, I truly do think that debate bros are a disease among us. Alright, I'm back. I didn't just change clothes. I had to film this on a separate day because the lighting became fucked. Sorry. To start off, I'm going to be talking about people that I generally think are fine. When we're painting in broad strokes, I think they're relatively harmless, even if overall I'd say I disagree with their tactics. I am, of course, talking about white guy with blonde hair, and by proxy, white guys with brown hair. If you don't know who these guys are, for the sake of the video, all you really need to know is that these guys debate people on TikTok. No. Yes. Sometimes this can extend into YouTube and longer form media where they debate with those stupid fucking mics, you know the ones I'm talking about. But generally speaking, they debate on TikTok and they are left-leaning, mainly aligned with Democrats.
Talk about this compromise bill that you want to pass if you're elected. You said that's going to be a priority. It includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. That's something Republicans wanted. That was part of the compromise.
Now, the main guy we're going to be talking about is white guy with blonde hair. That's right. Dean Wither. Dean Withers. The skeleton. The Wither. Yep. Now, before you wag your finger at me and go, Xander, what the hell is wrong with you? These guys are good people. I'd actually agree. I don't think these guys are really that harmful. I think generally speaking, they do a good job at spreading left-leaning ideals and ideals that are set in empathy towards younger audiences. So this isn't really meant to be as much of a call-out post type of thing. And it's far more just a small criticism and critique of debate culture as a whole. I'm not particularly fond of their style of content and some of their politics. I think that they are far too forgiving of Biden and Harris. But generally speaking, I understand that these guys are far, 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 far less harmful than the shit I was talking about in last time's video. When recognizing them, I care far more about them being allies to left-leaning politics rather than them being disgusting debate bros. That being said, I do think there is real harm being done here, and as melodramatic as that sounds, I'm gonna do my best to try and convince you. Now to start off, here's a genuine question. Did any of you know who this woman is before Dean spoke with her? Was there a single human on the planet Earth that knew who the fuck she was? If you don't know who she is, which you probably don't, her name is Emily Wilson. Now, Emily is a vile creature that deserves absolutely no respect. She's a conservative influencer who has defended slavery.
I think it should be state by state.
Victims of sexual abuse. Okay, why?
That's fine. I think if everyone in a state wants something, go ahead and have it.
So if everyone in Alabama wanted slavery back, you'd be okay with that?
Sure. If everyone in the state wants it, go ahead. What do I give a
All right. Well, let's go next topic.
Well,
Pushed lies about immigration, hates women, etc., etc. Basically, she's just the epitome of everything that's wrong with conservatism. My main issue with Dean's involvement here is not the fact that he opposed these, but the fact that he is platforming her for his own gain. And by even hosting her, or by proxy being hosted with her, he's giving credence to these horrible ideas. Most people see someone defend slavery and go, oh, you're not even worth an ounce of my time. But influencers like Dean see someone like Emily and go, how about we do a second debate with the moderator that's violently in love with you again? Now, when looking at Emily's follower account, you may be thinking that she's actually quite a big creator. She does have these numbers, and she has been invited to things like Turning Point, but when you look at the engagement rate, it's so obvious that she is just a dying brand. Emily will post a video that gets 1 million views with a fraction of the amount of likes, and then will have 6,000 comments just calling her a fucking idiot. She does not have fans. No one respects her. What is the point of dissecting this woman's specific worldview? This isn't a Nick Fuentes that is extremely popular. This is just a fringe right-wing conservative that you might see on a fucking Jubilee video. What is the point of making her more well-known and just making her money and giving her engagement by showing her to a wider audience? You see, it doesn't matter if you shake your head the entire time she goes on some racist tirade, if you are the only reason why anybody is seeing the tirade in the first place. These grifters don't care if everyone thinks they're stupid and is making fun of them, because they're just working to get money. As long as you are engaging with the content, you are helping them get money. These grifters don't care if everyone in their comments is calling them stupid, they just care that you commented, because every comment just gives them money, and they don't have things like empathy. No matter what they do, they're still going to get invited to these conservative media events, no matter how bad they're embarrassed. Now, of course, I am not saying that Dean is solely responsible for her entire career. That would be fucking ludicrous. But what I am saying is that it's important to recognize how much of this is just Dean doing this for his own gain. He got the clips of owning her or whatever, and she got the clips of calling him a dirty lib, and they both got the engagement they wanted and profited off of this. If you're thinking, Xander, that's a pretty cynical way to look at the world, you're right, but I don't know, I can only watch this guy beg for gifts on his live while debating the ethics of racism for so long before I start to wonder about the motives and the results here.
you're telling me that there's other countries that want to respect her because she's a woman, meaning that you shouldn't have voted for her.
100%.
So, is there other countries that would not respect a president that's black because they're black?
No, they don't respect her because she's a woman.
One moment. Also, Janet! How are we doing today, Janet? Welcome in, Janet, with a $100 YouTube super chat. Another common W, Janet. Thank you so much for the love, Janet.
I suppose what I'm saying here is that even if you don't believe in pure moral consequentialism, the truth is that the outcome of your actions does matter to a degree. And I think if you're going to make a career, if you're going to profit off of politics and by extension people's lives, that you have to be making sure you're doing it ethically and with more tact. Because all of this doesn't actually convince people who don't already agree with you. Doing these constant debate tactic gotchas just kind of shows that they view debates and politics as entertainment. And while that may not just be the only way they view it, it is definitely an aspect. I don't know, maybe it's a bit hypocritical to be making this video for a little bit of entertainment, while also admonishing these sweet boys for doing similar things. But I really do think there is a difference between this and this.
Make sure that we are getting to double tapping that phone screen right off the bat. The easiest and only way for us to ensure that this live gets sent out to the masses is to spam the likes. So everybody right now together, spam the likes, spam the shares. Let's get up to 100,000 likes and 1,000 shares. And also spam that comment section, you guys. We already know what to do. As well as Breen Girl. Thank you for the $50 donation on Venmo. Oh my gosh, Breen Girl.
Like I said, though, I really don't think these guys are doing that much harm. I mainly just did this to introduce us to the idea of how debating cannot necessarily be a good thing. And I think this next subject I would also extend the same grace to, but I don't know. You can decide for yourself. We'll see. I've changed clothes. This is not filmed on a later date. I pissed myself and I had to burn the clothes. And if anything about my physical appearance or the room looks different, you're hallucinating and you're wrong and you should go to the hospital immediately. This part of the video is going to be shorter than the other parts, mainly because I think it works as like a transitional piece. The person I'm talking about here is not nearly as bad as the next person, so it felt kind of weird lumping them together, so you know, I chopped it up as such. Jovan Bradley is a debater, and he typically debates people that call in during his Twitch streams and then we'll debate them on his live Twitch. His most popular clips are typically posted on TikTok or Reels or Shorts, but you can find longer versions of all of his debates on his actual YouTube channel. Similar to Dean, Jovan has made debating his livelihood, or at least to my knowledge, has made his livelihood. I'm not fucking bank watching this guy. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but of course it does lend itself to toxic behavior. And I think out of the debate bro sins there are, Jovan is particularly bad in this instance about his consistency. Often in a debate, people will bring up premises that they don't actually believe in just to make sure that they don't actually lose the debate. This can range from either a small inconsistency to possibly conceding on a right-wing talking point entirely. To illustrate my point, here's an absolutely baffling video titled, "Baby Phil Bro Hates Having His Beliefs Questioned." Hates is in like big, bold letters. He just hates it. This video is essentially a debate about the moral consideration of human beings and abortion. Now that's an incredibly heavy and complicated topic on the face of it. In order to properly discuss this, I think it's important to understand where I align on these issues. As you can probably imagine by my disgusting eyebrow piercing and disgusting tattoo. God, I'm so fucking hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
I am extremely pro-choice because I am a leftist and I hold leftist views. Shocking, I know. I think putting any kind of restrictions on abortion is far more likely to lead to issues and deaths than anything else. It is a medical issue, and I think that it should be between a doctor and their patient, and that the government shouldn't really have a say in it because they're not doctors. And I think by adding some sort of catch-all law, all you're doing is making it more complicated and making doctors far less likely to make life-saving decisions. Beyond that, I just support women's autonomy. So even if it wasn't with all that legal minutia I was worried about, I think a woman has a right to undergo a medical procedure if she wants it. There is, of course, more to this conversation than that, but for the time being, that is my little blurb about my beliefs. I just think the conversation has a lot of misogyny surrounding it, so you know. To start off the video, Jovan is speaking with just an absolute buffoon. This guy's debating just kind of rambles on and on about nothing burger points for 40 minutes, but I am far less interested in this random caller than I am Jovan himself. To start off the video, Jovan asserts that he is pro-choice, but he thinks it should only be legal to kill or terminate the fetus after 24 weeks.
I'm pro-choice up until the child is born. But after 24 weeks, I think you should have abortions that don't kill the fetus, such as a hysterectomy abortion or an induction abortion.
His reasoning for this is that he believes, based off of, I suppose, his own research, I can't find much to back it up, that fetuses gain sentience at 24 weeks.
So lethal abortion up until 24 weeks. Could you elaborate on why you draw that 24-week cutoff?
Yeah, 24 weeks, the fetus becomes sentient. And once a fetus has the capacity for sentient, I grant it moral consideration.
Now, for a myriad of reasons, I already find this claim just fucking baffling. For one, it claims that there is some sort of agreed upon medical definition of consciousness and moral consideration when we are talking about killing something, and that there's like an exact date where something becomes sentient, you know? Listen, 23 weeks and 6 days is A-okay in Jovan's book, but 24 weeks in, you're a murderer. Sorry, ladies. It's just how it is. Listen, Jovan's an expert on this, as you can clearly see. So, don't want to be a murderer, do you? So not only is the direct time frame kind of stupid, but this is a broadly debated topic among the medical community. But not only is the idea of sentience at a set date and consciousness and moral consideration within the law a broadly debated topic among the medical community, it doesn't take into consideration what is like a life-threatening scenario. Based on Jovan's politics, it's fair to assume that when he is talking about these abortions, he is talking about scenarios in which they are required. The things he is talking about here are life-threatening and life-saving procedures in order to protect the fetus and the mother. But of course, Jovan does not tell you what he actually considers a life-threatening scenario where one of these abortions would be required. Childbirth is technically a life-threatening scenario for the mother, and if we are considering the fetus a life, I don't, but Jovan does, then that would also be life-threatening for the fetus. I apologize if I mispronounced this, but a hysterectomy abortion is an extremely dangerous and invasive procedure. It is extremely complicated. It's not like this is broadly taught to medical professionals, but in spite of that, Jovan advocates for this solely after 24 weeks. The procedure within itself is very life-threatening, but that is a matter to Jovan. Can't kill the fetus. So as we can see, there's already inconsistencies within his arguments. But lest the video continues. Now, if these were my sole issues with the video, I would not really be adding them here. But then he goes on to say some more crazy shit. The person he's debating here asks if a landowner should be charged with murder for killing rats on their property. And this is his response.
What makes this sentience more valuable than, say, of like a rat sentience?
I don't think it's more valuable than a rat.
So do you think we should charge people... Sorry?
I didn't say anything.
Was I echoing? I might have been echoing. Oh, okay. I think I'm echoing a little bit. Do you think we should charge, say, a landowner who gasses out rats in his building? Do you think we should charge him for murder?
Probably not. It would be impractical.
Okay, so why would it be impractical if one level of sentience is morally valuable, whereas a higher level of sentience is not morally valuable?
It doesn't have value. It doesn't matter about. Well, friend,
Sorry?
It doesn't matter about morals. It's a practicality thing. Morals don't matter. When we're charging somebody for murder of a rat, who's the injured party here? Who's the party taking up the rats can't sue you? So who is the person suing you on behalf of the rat?
So we should not, unless someone has the ability to sue you. I don't really understand where you're coming from with that.
Well, if we're talking about murder and charging people with murder, does a dead person have the
ability to sue you?
No, but they're not the ones doing it. A dead person isn't the one that is putting you through criminal court. It's usually the state. I don't think practically the state is going to be able to do that for rats.
Do you think we should do that for rats?
For rats?
Yeah.
I think it's equally as wrong to murder an animal as it is to murder a person. So yeah, probably.
Holy shit. So, let me get this straight. This man, this debate bro, this moral, the absolute titan in the marketplace of ideas, right, is arguing from a moral compass that thinks that a rat and a human should be granted equal moral consideration. But the only reason why he is not arguing that someone that kills a rat should be legally tried for murder is because he thinks it's impractical. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't fucking care if it's considered impractical. I'm just point blank against murder. If I think someone is a murderer, right? They murder for no good reason. In my opinion, they have gone beyond the moral bounds that I think should be allowed. Then I don't fucking care how impractical it is. I would be advocating every day that they should not be allowed to get away with that murder. An impracticality in the legal system would not stop me from thinking that we should charge people with murder. That's the basis of every civil rights movement ever. So the question is, how is this flip-flopping? Well, the truth is, I don't think Jovan actually believes any of this. Well, the truth is, I don't think Jovan genuinely thinks that a rat life and a human life are equivalent. But I do think he thinks that it gives him an edge in this conversation. You see, his opponent was trying to set up the idea that a fetus after 24 weeks has about as much wherewithal, sentience, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, as a rat. Therefore, if he is setting a barrier and an exact date on when a person becomes a person, and he is basing this solely on consciousness and sentience, then he should have just as much a problem with killing a rat. And then, when inevitably he would answer that a rat life is not equivalent to a human life, he would ask, what is the difference between a rat life and a fetus after 24 weeks? Jovan would either be backed into a corner where he is either defending that there should never be a lethal abortion, or where he would be defending that abortion should be allowed no matter when the term is. See, this would not work on me because I view sentience and life as far too abstract. But since Jovan wants to put a definite number, a definite date on when a thing becomes alive, and he thinks he has the wherewithal to do that, he has to pretend that killing a human is equivalent to killing a rat. This is the issue that so many debate bros get into. When you are constantly arguing, is it inevitable that you are going to get backed into a corner at one point? There's always going to be some sort of odd hypocrisy. And in normal conversation, this is just what's considered normal for humans. Obviously, it's not ideal, but you're not on the fucking clock. When you make a career out of this, though, being right is what matters, and being wrong is seen as a failure. It doesn't matter if it was off-the-cuff dialogue, you got caught up in hypocrisy and you need to dodge that at all costs. And this is why the best debaters are ones without a moral compass. Because if you can just pretend to believe something in spite of what you are actually acting upon, then you can win any debate. Because there's no way to argue with you or get you caught up in a moral inconsistency. Now, this is not me trying to say that Jovan is an evil person without a moral compass by any means. Being a debate bro means you are far more worried about being perceived as correct than you are sticking to your true beliefs. And once you start to forget the core of your morality, once you start to forget what you are actually believing, that is when you get into moments like we just saw. But that being said, Jovan is by no means the worst person we're going to see today. Not even close. That title goes far and away to one disgusting freak. The If you don't know Destiny, or you only know him loosely, you're probably wondering what his views actually are. For broad strokes purposes, I guess you could just call him a liberal. He mostly aligns with Democrats on most political issues. You might have seen him on that 20v1 Jubilee thing.
They were deleted. They were deleted by Twitter. Those tweets. He brought them out on stage on his town hall and said, look, here are the tweets that you deleted. How do you explain that? Other than a fascist system who doesn't want Donald.
He was also the guy that exposed JonTron as a white supremacist a while back.
There is an absolute disproportionate amount of crime committed to whites by non-whites. That's there's no arguing that. That's just FBI statistics. So in that sense, you could say, well, why shouldn't the white people be able to address this? But they're not allowed to because they're called racist by people like you.
If you wanted to fix crime in the United States, the best way to do it would be to deport all of the poor people, because poor whites commit a lot of crime too, disproportionately compared to wealthier whites.
That's just not true. But okay,
wait,
you
hold
can
on,
say
wait. You don't think that
Well,
poverty...
yeah, well, yes. In relative to wealthy whites, yes.
Sure.
You're right.
Okay, so do you think that poor blacks probably commit more crime relative to wealthier black people?
They do. Wealthy blacks also commit more crime than poor whites. That's a fact.
Wait, what?
And the truth is, if you only know him from these clips, he seems like a very rational person. He is undeniably great at debating, especially when he is debating conservatives. He's really good at shutting down conservative rhetoric, and while that may not be a real difficult task, you can at least acknowledge that he does a good job at stopping a lot of conservatives from just spewing bullshit. Now, if you do know Destiny, you're probably expecting me to tie in his controversies sometime soon, and while I do think they are important, and I will mention them because I do think they are important to building an idea of what his character is, at least for the start of this section, I think it's more important that we just focus on where I think he fails politically more so than personally. Destiny's main issue politically is whenever he debates someone on the left, he has a really hard time being morally consistent. Now, unfortunately, I am unable to comb through every wrong thing Destiny has ever said. I mean, there are literally hours of wrong things he's said. But for the time being, I think the most important one is the discussion of Israel and Palestine. After October 7th, Destiny has done his absolute best to run defense for Israel and their genocide. Now, there are a myriad of moments where he is downplaying Israel and their horrible actions, and I'm sure I am cutting them in around the screen like the fucking genius editor that I am.
Our cameraman walked away.
So like why? So he is interviewing the guy who's about to go do some shit to get himself killed, basically. That's what's gonna happen. We know from this point, that's what's gonna happen. So he walks away, gets back a little bit, and then he sets up behind this thing, right? Is this concealment, I guess? Not cover, concealment, right? Because I think the tank's over here. So now he can capture the footage right here. He sees the guys walking, knowing that they're about to get shot, because that's what's gonna happen. And then eventually they get shot and everything is, this is it. This is like act 1, 2, and 3. It's like all here. Now this guy is down. He's dead. These guys are like,
fatally wounded.
They're not even like, they're not even running. They're not even like cowering and running away and screaming in fear. There's like, okay, well, they did it. We got our shots. Okay, is this guy done? Oh shit, well, okay. Well, we brought the white flag so we can put that over the bleeding part, assuming he got shot in it actually, right?
Flag
and then this guy, what, is this guy running back to grab the wife? This one guy runs back. We've got the press dude here with the phone.
He was carried away.
The ITV guy is now like,
was turning red.
And God, they love this. The white flag turning red. Beautiful journalistic shot.
Carry him. They've killed him, yells this youth.
Now once they're in like a, I guess behind the corner or super safe area or something, I don't know, this guy starts screaming.
They've killed him, yells this youth. Then suddenly.
Inshallah is a very common word. It doesn't have that strong of a feeling you're making it out to be. Wait, who said I made it out to have a really strong feeling? What?
More gunfire.
I don't know what they're saying here. I don't know why they wouldn't translate everything. It's fucking annoying.
They scream at a child, telling him to find cover.
Nobody said enchilada, I don't think. Oh, and then here comes the wife coming up. We've got our running action shot.
His wife, his widow, has heard what happened. And as she rushes to the scene, she meets the party carrying...
Did this guy, like, point her in the right direction? Oh, no, he's just on his phone. Sorry, it looked like a pointing finger. It was on his phone.
His widow has heard what happened. And as she rushes to the scene, she meets the party carrying away the body on a makeshift stretcher. When they're satisfied they're a safe distance away, they stop. And the mourning starts. These tragic scenes have been repeated time and time again since this war began.
What is happening here? Like, all of this was avoidable. All of this is so stupid. But...
and there is also, of course, the infamous trip to Israel that he took with Lonerbox. Boner Locks. Fucking hate that guy. But the best way for me to show you just how stupid this man is through the debate with Norman Finkelstein, Benny Morris, and Mouin Rabbani. I apologize if I mispronounced Mouin Rabbani's name. I looked it up 5 times. I can't tell if the white people I'm hearing say it are saying it correctly, or... There are 2 main reasons as to why I chose this. Reason 1, which is very funny to watch him get obliterated. He knows nothing that he's fucking talking about this entire debate. So funny. But the other reason, it shows clearly how his ego comes before anything else when we are talking about him in a debate. Now, as for the first point, I want you to keep in mind, this is a 5-hour-long debate. Very long. Now, I want you to guess how long it takes for Destiny to even try to add anything substantive to the conversation. It takes him 2 hours. He spends 2/5 of this conversation just letting the grown-ups talk because he knows how fucking stupid he is when you ask him anything before 2023. This guy had no idea what the fuck was going on in the entire conversation. He just stares at his iPad and plays fucking My Singing Monsters the entire time. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. It's incredibly funny. You can see him literally looking shit up on Wikipedia the entire conversation, all while not understanding that the information that he's regurgitating back at them without any analysis is likely information that was garnered through, the respected historians and journalists that are, in front of him. The point is, he's incredibly unprepared for this debate. It is extremely obvious to anyone watching that he did not know anything about Israel or Palestine before October 7th. Now, he would never admit this, and that's out of fear of looking stupid, and that's the problem with debate bros. They cannot accept being wrong or not being knowledgeable about anything. If they pick a position, they have to either stick with it forever or quietly shift it and then act like they always felt that way the entire time with absolutely no recourse. As for the second point, I'm going to bring up a small portion of Destiny's rhetoric to not only show how uninformed he is, but how outmatched and just categorically wrong he is in this conversation. I'm going to paraphrase parts of this conversation just to make it easier, but I'm going to be putting a timestamp somewhere on the screen so you can go watch it yourself. I do recommend you watch the whole debate if you're interested. The link, as always, will be in the description, as with anything else that I think is worth putting down there. It's not going to be as cited as last time, because that was more whenever you fucking get it. This portion of the conversation starts with Norman Finkelstein calling out Benny Morris. He thinks that Benny Morris's depiction of Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon was gross.
So, this is what you have to say about Israel's invasion of Lebanon in 1982. You said Israel was reluctant to harm civilians, sought to avoid casualties on both sides, and took care not to harm Lebanese and Palestinian civilians. He then went on to acknowledge the massive use of IDF firepower against civilians during the siege of Beirut, which traumatized Israeli society. Morris quickly enters the caveat that Israel, quote, tried to pinpoint military targets, but inevitably many civilians were hit.
Finkelstein points out that Morris has multiple direct quotes in which he states that he thinks the IDF was purposely trying to spare civilian lives within the war. Finkelstein brings this up because Morris claims that he also condemns when Israel purposefully kills civilians. And Morris thinks that Rabbani and Finkelstein need to specifically condemn the actions on October 7th done by Hamas. And yes, Finkelstein and Rabbani, they call October 7th an atrocity. They just don't condemn it in the exact words that Morris wants. All right, are you still with me? Great. Here is Destiny's addition to the conversation.
Can I respond to something relating to the Lebanon war? I looked at the book that he got this from and what the quote was from. It sounds cold to say it, but war is tragic and civilians die. There is no war that this has not happened in the history of all of humankind. The statement that Israel might take care not to target civilians is not incompatible with a diary entry from someone who said they saw civilians getting killed. I think that sometimes we do a lot of weird games when we talk about international humanitarian law or laws that govern conflict, where we say things like civilians dying is a war crime, or civilian homes or hospitals getting destroyed is necessarily a war crime, or is necessarily somebody intentionally targeting civilians without making distinctions between military targets or civilian ones. I think that when we analyze different attacks or when we talk about the conduct of a military, I think it's important to understand prospectively from the unit of analysis of the actual military committing the acts, what's happening and what are the decisions being made, rather than just saying retrospectively, oh, well, a lot of civilians died, not very many, military people died, comparatively speaking, so it must have been war crimes, especially when you've got another side, I'll fast forward to Hamas, that intentionally attempts to induce those same civilian numbers, because Hamas is guilty of any war crime that you would potentially accuse, and this is according to Amnesty International, people that Norm loves to cite. Hamas is guilty of all of these same war crimes, of them failing to take care of the civilian population, of them essentially utilizing human shields to try to fire rockets free from attack. Essentially, yes. I'm just saying that essentially, as in terms of how international law defines it, not how Amnesty International defines it, but Amnesty International describes times of human shielding, but they don't actually apply the correct international legal standard.
Know what's the correct
I know, absolutely.
Law. You haven't
I absolutely.
You haven't the clue.
I absolutely.
I think,
but I'm just saying. Believe it or not, Norm, the entire Geneva Convention is all on Wikipedia. It's a wonderful website. But I'm just saying that on the Hamas side, if there's an attempt to induce this type of military activity, attempt to induce civilian harm, that is not just enough to say, like, well, here's a diary entry where a guy talks about how tragic these attacks are.
And here is Rabbani's response, and also a portion where Destiny continues to prove just how fucking stupid he is.
I think the problem with your statement is that if you go back and listen to it, the first part of it is war is hell, civilians die. It's a fact of life. And you state that in a very factual manner. Then when you start talking about Hamas, all of a sudden you've discovered morality, and you've discovered condemnation, and you've discovered intent, and you are unfortunately far from alone in this. I'll give you, you know who for me is a perfect example?
Well, wait, hold on. Just in response, we don't need examples.
So,
the false equivalency of the two sides is astounding. When Hamas kills civilians in a surprise attack on October 7th, this isn't because they are attempting to target military targets and they happen to stumble into a giant festival of people that...
Well, they did happen to stumble into it.
They did, but... They killed 300 people. But they did. But when they stumbled into it, it wasn't an issue of trying to figure out a military target or not. They weren't failing in distinction. There wasn't a proportionality assessment done. It was just to kill kill civilians. Even the Amnesty International in 2008 and in 2014 and even today will
Look, I don't
say
think
that it's like
I
the
don't think
types
you'll
of attacks.
find anyone who will deny that Hamas has targeted civilians.
Sure.
You gave the example
But there's a
of,
difference because
of suicide bombings during the Second Intifada. I mean, facts are facts.
Sure. But I'm saying that the Hamas targeting of civilians is different than the incidental loss of life that occurs when Israel does.
How, genocide is the intentional mass murder.
Genocide is an entirely separate claim.
Yeah,
right?
but the idea that Israel is not in the business of intentionally targeting civilians, I know that's what we're supposed to believe, but the historical record stands very clearly.
Now, beyond the fact that you can clearly see how moronic Destiny is here, with the idea that for some reason Israel is not responsible for civilian deaths, but Hamas is. There's also just literal mountains of evidence that Israel has purposefully killed civilians continuously. I'm going to read it directly off here so I don't get it wrong. Hi, Xander here. In the future, I look like shit right now because I wasn't planning on filming, but I was editing and realized that the context I was setting up for the next clip was a context I had already used before in the same video of someone being killed while in a safe zone while carrying a white flag by the IDF. I think while that video is still a very good example of the IDF's systematic killings of Palestinian civilians, is definitely something that some people could point to as being anecdotal. So instead, I'm going to add on to the evidence that I already have. And in doing so, I'm going to show a really good article. It's a New York Times opinion piece. It goes over what several doctors who were working in Gaza and what they saw, some personal testimonies, and as well as many CT photographs of preteens with bullets in their heads. So yeah, it's undeniable that Israel is killing civilians here. Here is also them defending that essay that they put up. So the New York Times not only initially put this up, but they also proceeded to say that all the doctors were vetted, everything was vetted, and that this was a correct essay, and they don't regret it. All right, back to Xander. Here is more evidence of them killing civilians. And even if you were claiming that Destiny was solely talking about the 1982 invasion of Lebanon by Israel, there is, of course, a large amount of debate about how many civilians were killed. But the highest numbers that I have seen is anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000, although many people claim that that is far too high. But the lowest is 4,000 to 8,000. And since this is favorite research website, here's it directly from fucking Wikipedia. But you know what? When Israel kills civilians during an invasion, who cares, right, Destiny? It only matters when the dirty Hamas does it. Definitely nothing deep-seated there, buddy. But don't worry, guys. Destiny says that all the deaths were on accident. None of them were purposeful. And there's no need from condemnation of Benny Morris because, you can kill 8,000 civilians on accident. It could happen. Me and you do that all the time, right? Me and you just accidentally kill 4,000 people. I don't know about you guys, but I don't accidentally kill civilians ever. I've never killed a single civilian, but I guess it is what it is. Now, I could go on for hours about the Israeli government and the IDF personally and purposefully killing civilians, especially if we are considering the apartheid regime that's been set up in a shrinking West Bank, which I think you should, add, because an apartheid is, if someone dies indirectly of apartheid, it's the people setting up the apartheid are to blame. But unfortunately, I think it would make this video too long and stray a bit too far from the initial point of the video. My point here is that Destiny has entered a conversation he is not ready for. He is spewing horrible misinformation while claiming to be on the same level as the people he is debating around him. He is spewing this information through rhetorical devices. These rhetorical devices have no substance behind them, but boy, do they make him sound smart if you don't know what you're talking about. The difference is when he is debating Republicans, it's incredibly easy to make them look stupid through these rhetorical devices. But as soon as he starts debating against knowledgeable people, it becomes increasingly obvious that these rhetorical devices are a crutch he uses to sound smart in conversations he doesn't belong in. So instead of just admitting he's wrong, his ego takes over, and he just continues to spread this horrible misinformation to a point where he probably would not even realize what he said while he's saying it.
Honestly, I'm pro-genocide. It sounds really shitty, but I think that Israel should just draw up its fucking borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place. That's really shitty, but that's about where I'm at. I don't know,
You just think that Palestine should just pack up and Native American the fuck out of there?
The problem is that it seems like there is a hugely general hostility to Jewish people across really the entire world, but definitely the Middle East. So the problem is that as you weaken Israel's ability for Jewish people to live there, it seems like there is because there's a lot of different organizations across the Middle East that are highly invested in the destruction of Israel. So that's a really rough thing too. So it seems like if Israel is forced to make concessions to Palestinians, it threatens Jewish people's ability to have a homeland. And so I don't know, it's really shit. Truthfully, the answer is there's no good answer. It's hard. It's hard. It's a really, really complicated situation.
Well, because
it seems like appeasing either end basically means kind of the destruction of the other end. If you give Jewish people what they want, Palestinians are essentially permanently cucked out of what they feel is their rightful homeland. And if you give Palestinians what they want, then probably a lot of Jewish people are going to die. Right? Yeah.
That's true.
And this is the dark underbelly of what being a debate bro is, and what happens when you work to gain and profit from people's real life's issues. And that's why it surprised no one when we all found out he was such a horrible person behind closed doors. Everyone finding out he's a sex pest and a racist is not exactly surprising when you see the way he treats people when he's on camera. Now, I am of course not saying that all of this baggage is inherent with being a debate bro. But what I am saying is that in my opinion, it is just a straight up not moral way to view the world. You're viewing these issues as something to be won. You are viewing these people as something to profit from. You see a genocide and you think, how do I win in the marketplace of ideas about how the IDF is allowed to bomb civilians? You are a fucking horrible person, Destiny. Content creation is already a breeding ground for horrible people that abuse power. And as they get more and more power, they just continue to abuse it further. If you get into content creation for your own ego, then it's no surprise when you abuse people because of that ego. I am not asking anyone to completely stop debating. I think that would be absurd. I am also, of course, not telling people to stop content creation as a whole. I mean, that would be extremely hypocritical. But what I am saying is that if you are in this industry, an industry of entertainment, that is, you need to constantly self-reflect and make sure that you are not seeing these atrocities as just a way to grow your career. You cannot view these real-world issues as just another portion for your drama channel. These issues are not a commodity, and they're not a way for you to grow your audience. All of that is inherently a toxic position to come from, no matter what, even if you claim to be on my side. If you're just someone that watches content, try to be a little more discerning, lest we make another divorcelli, another sex pestini. I don't know, what other nicknames can you call this absolute creature? Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I know last time I said that this one would not be that long based off the script. Seems like I fucking lied, who knows? Turns out I had more to say than I thought I did, so. Also, I want to apologize if it seems like I skimmed through the part with Israel and Palestine. It's an issue that is extremely close to my heart, and I take it very seriously, but I don't think it fit with this video to necessarily go over it completely here. That being said, I'm going to be putting plenty of resources for you guys to read up on stuff on your own. There's also other YouTubers that I think have done just great jobs covering the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's an extremely complex history. Horrible atrocities are being committed every day. So I tried to keep the focus on debate culture as best as I could, but obviously it felt a little weird to me to not kind of put this caveat that there's a lot more to the story than just that little 5-minute section I gave you. That being said, I want to make it very, very, very clear. I'm extremely pro-Palestine. I'm extremely anti-Zionist. I just don't fuck with imperialism. I might make a video in the future, but if you follow me on any of my social media, you'll see that I am extremely pro-Palestine constantly. As always, sources in the description, further reading in the description, socials are all in the description, probably on screen right now. I'm most active on Twitter, so you should follow me there if you're going to follow me on any other social media but YouTube. Everything else I'll probably be more active on if I get more followers and more interactions and shit like that, but you know. Now you may be wondering, are there any debaters that I like? Xander, are there any debaters you like? The answer is yes. I love Sam Cedar. I think he's very knowledgeable about all the topics. I think he does a good job at not letting his
Sam Cedar
rhetoric get in the way of his actual morals. Anyways, yeah. If you like this video, give it a freaking thumbs up, man. Freaking, if you like this video and you want to see more from me, freaking subscribe. Currently, my goal is to release a video about once a month. I'm probably gonna miss it every now and then, but you know, generally like a month of time, 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. So yeah, but subscribe if you want more obvious timings and all right. I'll see you guys in the next video when I put my 1 foot tall LeBron Funko Pop in a blender and drink it to see if it gives me powers, like in Space Jam. Gonna happen. Alright, bye.
Little Uzi.